More StarCraft? Yeah, more StarCraft. It's time for a best of 3. A Zerg versus Protoss. We're in the upper left. Playing in red, we have the world champion. And he goes by the name of Serral. Down in the bottom right, playing in blue, playing with Protoss, we have Zoun. A good old best of 3 between some of the very best players in the game. And I'm excited for this one. Mostly because I'm a massive Serral fanboy, and as you probably know, there aren't that many Serral games out there. Although, I will be honest, in 2026 so far, he has been participating in way more tournaments than he did after winning the World Cup. Back in, when was this? August? September? I think it was August. Either way, I heard that this particular series is absolutely phenomenal, so we'll have to find out together exactly what ended up going down. I'm going to be putting my eyes mostly on Serral just because he has been reinventing pretty much every single matchup, it seems. Zerg is in this weird spot where either they play super greedy early on and they just absolutely dominate the opponents. So we see this, for example, in Zerg versus Protoss quite a bit, where the Zergs make a ton of workers early on, and then in the mid-game, Protoss just doesn't really have his chance. This is a style that we've been seeing from the likes of, for example, Solar. He plays very greedy, cuts a lot of corners, and then if he gets away with it, he wins. But Serral has been going for these very weird, complex build orders. So I'm wondering what he's going to be cooking up here today. Is he going to be opening up quick +1 melee? Will we be going into a quick Roach Warren? Because I think what you can't really do right now as a Zerg in the current meta is play this middle-of-the-road type of approach. The approach where you are effectively safe against everything that Protoss can throw at you. And obviously Protoss, well, they have many different things that they can throw at you early on. Most of the time, it's still Oracles. Most of the time, it's still going to be Stargate builds, but we've been seeing Twilight Council aggression again in the form of Adepts, even Zealots with Charge First. Obviously, Blink is very popular. Dark Templar builds are back. We've been seeing Archon drops. There's a little bit of everything, and it seems to me that if Zerg tries to be safe against all things Protoss, they automatically fall behind. Maybe Serral has figured something out, though. It's going to be a Stargate opener here for Zoun. He's been scouting on the other side of the map, trying to figure out what it is that the Zerg is going for. Thus far, he hasn't seen a third hatchery yet, so he's checking up north, checking over here. There's technically a third option on 10,000 feet right over there on the left. Right now, though, the drone is going to be moving in this direction, and I believe that Zoun, yep, he will see it. And that's one of the things that you always do want to see as a Protoss player, because, I mean, you could technically fake it, I suppose, but not getting a third base as a Zerg player would make things very, very funky, and it would mean that Zoun has to change things up a little bit. Stargate is done. Should be an Oracle. Could be a Void Ray. Could even be a Phoenix, which is something that some Protoss players are enjoying, but Oracle indeed is going to be the name of the game. Nice shade over there by the Protoss. Gets a single worker kill here so far. Okay. Now, when is Zoun going to be taking his own third base? He's opting to go for the second gateway before building the third nexus. It's one of the things that Protoss players have been greeting with as well, right? So obviously Zerg, they're known to be very greedy, but Protoss players have been going for like a 310, 315 or so third nexus. They've been cutting the third gateway unit. They've been cutting the second gateway. No Overlord on this particular high ground, because Serral is sending in and around the site. Yeah, not something that Zoun is going to be able to deny, it seems. Either way, this is all very, very standard. About a 345 third nexus. Not opting to go for the one here horizontally. Instead going for the forward expansion. Okay, a little bit risky technically. Serral, by the way, hasn't been spotted yet with this Overlord. He's looking around. I think seeing the gas geyser here alone is already giving Serral the heads up. Yeah, he's seen the third nexus. He's seen the second, or at least the second base with a little bit of gas. I think that's already giving him enough information to know that he is going to be safe to drone up for a little bit longer. Like, you're not going to go and take these additional gases at this point in time if you are, I don't know, going for like a Zealot all-in or something more gateway focused. Are you safe here with this OV? No, doesn't look like it. This is dead space, apparently. I think this is fine. Okay, double Oracle. It takes two Oracles here to one-shot a worker. There's 1, 2, 3. Nice work here by the South Korean Protoss. Roach Warren right now on the back of this for Serral. And inside of the main base. Okay. We're going into Blink together with the +1 attack. Fourth hatchery already coming up here for the finisher. Nice sniping here, though. I gotta say, Zoun seems very sharp so far. Can't really detect any real mistakes. He hasn't lost anything up to this point. His timings seem to be, yeah, very sharp. Robo Facility right now. This is a super normal build. So I do think that at this point in the meta, Protoss has a ton of variety. We see a ton of different build orders in general from Protoss in PvZ, but this is all quintessential normal Protoss versus Zerg. Blink follow-up here. I wonder if Zoun is going to move before the Blink upgrade is done. That's something that the European Protoss players have become very fond of, where they move out at about maybe 80% or so of the Twilight Council research being finished. Serral going into an Infestation Pit together with a Hydra then, and then also Roach Speed. Okay, so what he doesn't have yet is an Evolution Chamber. Already we've got a 5th hatchery building up as well. Cutting the Evolution Chamber is interesting to me. Most of the time we see Zergs opting to go for a quick +1 melee. Very frequently do they follow it up as well with a quick +1 missile. But now Serral's not going for any of it, and he's effectively spending his money instead on an Infestation Pit. Hydras are going to be getting their ranged upgrade, okay. And I wonder if this is going to be straight for a Hive. Is this like a 6.5 minute Hive? Serral playing the big macro game here. 12 drones, extra gases. That hatchery in the upper right is going to be absolutely critical. I think Serral will be opting to go for 10 gas here before too long, and apparently, even though most Zerg players really try to avoid the late game, it seems, Serral is gonna try and see if he can fight it straight up. Very quick double Colossus follow-up here for Zoun. So if you look at this from Zoun's point of view, right, he has seen a Roach Warren, but he hasn't really seen Roach production. Even though there is a Roach Warren, it doesn't really mean that Zerg's plan on going for a Roach-based mid-game. Going into just good old Stalker Colossus is really good. If instead Zerg is going for, say, like Hydraling Bane or like Hydra Zergling in general, there's a lot of value to be gained. Colossi, of course, deal bonus damage to light units, and, well, at this point, with no roaches out, those Colossi are going to be able to roast quite well. So Zoun, though, he sees indeed that there is a Hive just about done already. The Observer gets killed, but he knows about the Lurker transition. Single Viper coming up. I think if Zoun moves out very soon, he has a real shot at dealing critical amounts of damage, but instead he decides to go into a Fleet Beacon, a second Stargate of his own, and then the 4th Nexus is already finishing up. So Serral apparently accepting to play the big macro game, and now Zoun is doing the exact same thing. We are effectively cutting the early game and the mid game short. We're going straight late game. Okay. Look at this as well. Straight into a... where is it? A Templar Archives. Are we going to go double Forge? Will we begin the Twilight Council upgrade? Actually, do we already have a double Forge? Am I blind? I'm sleep deprived, but not blind, right? No, we only have a single Forge. Okay. One of these days, I'm going to be looking for something that's right in the middle of my screen. And I can't tell if it's because I've been sleeping only a handful of hours here and there, or if it's because I'm stupid. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Bella. Bella gives me the perfect excuse. I used to miss things in the middle of my screen all the time, but I had nothing to blame other than my own stupidity. But now, you know, we can, yeah, shout out to Bella. We can give her the benefit of the doubt. Now, this is a cute little position, and one of the reasons why a lot of Protosses don't really enjoy the forward base. Terrans, for example, with siege tanks can hit across this little crevice here as well on 10,000 feet. Already, though? Yep, we've got ourselves a Tempest or two. Viper is out, but I don't believe there's enough Hydras available. Only 4 of them out at this point on the map to really contest this. 6 Dropper Lords coming up right now. Ultra Cavern on the production tab. Tectonic Destabilizers. We are just about to pop off. Action is going to be all over the map here momentarily. Up until this point, both players are just trying to survive and out-strategize each other. But soon, we're going to have to rely on speed. 540 average actions per minute here for Serral. That is the equivalent of 9 buttons a second. Should we have a little bit of first-person view? This is what that looks like. You can see his selections in the far bottom right. He doesn't really know exactly where all these units are located, though. There's the Dropper Lords being loaded up. He does notice the little stasis ward. Tries to reposition right now the Lurkers. Hold position on a bunch of the units, too. Starts up the Ultralisk Chitinous Plating upgrade. Overlord drop in the meantime heads towards the main base. He's going to be unloading there in just a moment. Adrenal Glance is seconds away from being done. It finishes right when the Overlord drop arrives. And this is going to be extremely annoying here for Zoun. Zoun is going to be able to win the fight right over here, but he's going to take a ton of damage. Nexus, though, looks like it will stay alive. What about the drop inside of the main? Good warp in there as well by the Protoss. Okay, Serral decides to evacuate. And you know what? Let me take control of the camera again. That was handled really quite nicely by Zoun. He does end up losing the Nexus in the end, but I think the losses were very acceptable. Yeah, Serral's supply count takes a nosedive. He's going to be able to rebuild it immediately, but I don't think Zoun is all too unhappy about how this is going thus far. I love as well that he's already begun the Immortal production. I don't know if he has seen the Ultra Cavern. He has not. Ultras are still going to be super useful as well. Big Zergling drop, but Ultras are still going to be super useful as well against, or Immortals rather, are going to be super useful as well against Lurkers. If you don't have anything, though, against the Ultralisk, you just get torn apart. 3 Hydras and then about 40 Lings go diving in the main base. We even have the good old Parasitic Bomb upgrade. No, what is it called? Microbial Shroud upgrade coming up here as well for Serral. These Lings now, though, are getting to the point where they can actually start beating the Zealots quite reliably. Push again as well on the left, but Tempest here, together with some High Templar, are keeping those units at bay. Okay. Nice defense, though, here by our Protoss. This is the type of aggression that many Protoss players will succumb to, because it's so easy for things to go horribly wrong. It's one of those things as well, right? Where Zoun right now is fully maxed out. He's at 200 supply. So if a Zergling drop now arrives in the main base, he can't warp in a bunch of Zealots to try and deal with it. Extremely annoying. And indeed, that is what he's going to have to deal with again momentarily. Photon Cannon's not yet done. The Zealot run by, though, over on the right side, on the 3 o'clock position, is going to be able to get some work in. Lurker Den, or Lurker rather, burrowed right now behind that mineral line just to be a nuisance. In the meantime, though, Zoun is going for his first dedicated attack. Ultras are here, and we also do have a ton of Infestors Fungal Growth together with Microbial Shroud, baby. Making it very difficult for this Protoss army to deal damage. And you know what? Ultra's normally a terrible choice against Protoss, but with the power of the Microbial Shroud, Serral just destroyed the army. I mean, he's gonna need an answer here for those Tempests, but it looks like the Corruptors are on the production tab. Zealots in the main base, in the meantime, did clean up the drop, and the Lurker over here secured 5 kills, but nothing all too much. But I am surprised about how effective those Ultras ended up being. That was a ridiculous engagement there for Serral, constantly switching. At this point, the Lurker count has been reduced to just the 1. All right, Tempest will have to recall on out of there. And I wonder if Zoun here is thinking about how this all went wrong. Like, how did you... Didn't everything go perfectly according to plan? How did we just arrive in this situation where Ultras, of all units, ended up destroying the Protoss army? Crazy cool fight. And you know what? The Infestors are only going to get better from here, because now we're entering the good old Neural Parasite as well. Okay. Okay. Time to back up. What do we have right now as Protoss? Well, the bottom left base ended up going down. And the problem here for Zoun is that at this point, right, the Zerg aggression is going to be relentless, but his money is going to start running out. We're coming up on the 15-minute mark, and at that point, the main base is going to be pretty much dried up. The natural expansion is going to be dried up, and even the third won't have a lot of mining remaining anymore. Brute Lord transition here from Serral, my god. He's absolutely relentless. Yeah, I don't know what Zoun can do here. I mean, he still has a banger of an army, right? But I don't think he has an army that can beat the Zerg player straight up. And I believe he's gonna need to have enough mining to constantly replace the lost units. So he needs another base up sooner rather than later. The one lurker from the bottom left-hand corner decides to join in yet again. By the way, what unit has Serral not made so far in this game? He hasn't made Banelings. He hasn't made Swarm Hosts. I think that's it. There might be another one. Maybe another two. But Zoun has been forced to switch and change his style of units up all the freaking time. Kind of crazy. Now, it is nice though for Zoun that this is one of those like jack of all trades type of unit compositions. This is not a unit comp that's weak against anything in particular. Kills a hatchery over here. He's already did shut down the base as well on the right. What's a little sketchy now though for the Protoss here is that this base in the far bottom left is absolutely critical. He needs it. But at the same time, he can't really leave a ton of units behind here to try and keep it around. So he's going for a push, leaving that base in the bottom left entirely exposed. Pushes well towards the top right. I love the movement here though by Zoun, it has to be said. Zoun actually doing a great job here over these last 2 minutes. Trying to target fire down the low HP Ultra. He's trying to see if he can bring some of the heavy hitters in this direction instead. This hatchery is unlikely to survive. Yeah, that's just gonna get absolutely destroyed. Zealot run by in the left, okay. Brute Lord's trying to keep this army at bay, but nice maneuvering here yet again. And now the bottom left base is finishing up. Now we're getting additional Skytools upgrades. We get a second Cyber Core, additional Stargates. This fresh mineral line is going to be really sweet, and right away, the probe transfer is coming. A load of workers are making their way across. It is about time we continue mining yet again, and in the meantime, Serral is chasing a bunch of Zealots around. But I think these last 3 minutes for Zoun have been just about perfect. Don't think you could really hope for a lot more. Maybe a little bit of first-person view right here for the Protoss player. 362, APM. He starts up the mothership right there inside of the natural. My god, what is this army movement? Zoun, stop! Pain! Is he a mini-map dragger? I don't know what's going on here, dude. He's using a lot of camera location control groups, but this is absolutely nauseating, Zoun. I think he's recreating camera control groups and then he spams the recreated control group immediately. Jeez, okay, sorry. I don't want to have anybody throw up here while watching this game. That was disgusting. Some players have some really funny control groups. So most of the players out there, right, will have like F1 for the camera control group of their main, F2 for the natural, F3 for the third, etc., right? But some players, especially Protoss players, like to set up control groups for the actual locations where fights are most likely to happen, for locations where the army is currently located. And once you build up the muscle memory, it gets very confusing. Protoss obviously has, by far, like the slowest moving army in this matchup, so Zerg doesn't really, making control groups or camera location control groups for Zerglings just doesn't really make a ton of sense. I'm kind of surprised, though, I have to say here, by how passive Serral has been ever since the, drop aggression in the main base and the lurker run-bys and the fight in the middle. He's basically just been macroing up. His bank is plenty big. I really don't think he needs to be playing this any slower. Kind of feels to me like he is letting this slip out of his fingers. Not that long ago, he had Protoss exactly on 4 bases, but now Zoun is moving up to 6. I mean, obviously, it's not like this is a bad spot here for Zerg whatsoever. He's getting full upgrades. He's getting a massive bank. He's getting all of the economy in the world. But now he's dealing again with a maxed out Protoss. A Protoss player that has a decent economy as well to boot. So, let's see if this is something that is gonna bite him in the butt. More Stargates coming up, by the way. We're going up to 6. 6 Stargates in total. Okay. That's always one of the big advantages for Zerg. The fact that you don't need a ton of tech. Like, this is effectively all of the tech that Serral has built in this game. Zoun has spent more on his Stargates than Serral has done on literally all of the things. He's fishing for a lucky hit. Feedback, though, on a full energy Infestor will one-shot it. Okay, let's see what Zoun looks like while he's actually in a fight. More gateways coming up. We already have 12. Bottom left. Storm over there. Recall on a bunch of the Immortals and Archons. Pushes forward on the right side as well. Immortals are indeed going to chase down the Ultralisks, and that should be relatively straightforward. In the meantime, the hatchery at the 3 o'clock position dies yet again. Now, the forward third is now pretty much mined out. The Brute Lords and the Lurkers have been trying to reduce mining here for a while, but there it is. It's one of the big advantages, I guess, of taking it early. Now it's no longer really a problem. Obviously, you still want to keep the positional advantage, but... Ooh, Brute Lords, actually. That's a lot of Brutes. 11 Brutes on a little attack path of their own. This is never really what we see. A Brute Lord drive-by. And you know what? Zoun already used Recall a little bit ago to try and deal with the Ultralisks. So that means that the Tempests are not gonna, be close by. Instead, he's using them for the counterattack. So, base racing a Zerg is always a little bit sketchy. But I guess against Brute Lords, yeah, this army is significantly quicker. The Tempest numbers, by the way, are massive. We're up to 11 Tempests. Ultra's now moving in as well. Microbial Shroud used yet again. I can't believe Microbial Shroud is an actual core component to Serral's army. We have not seen any Zerg player really use it consistently. But in this game, it doesn't look like a joke, you know? Like, oftentimes when we see Microbial Shroud, it's Zerg players trying to get lucky, but it looks kind of ridiculous. More and more Infestors coming up, too. Well, there's actually only 3 of them remaining. Nice movement, though, here, yet again by Zoun. Taking down that base in the upper right is great. And I think he's got his eyes set on this 3 o'clock base himself as, like, his next base, if he can get it. The only problem with taking it is that the bottom left base is so far away, and positionally it's going to be hard to defend both locations at the same time. Alternative choice, though, for Zoun is to go north from here. He's a little worried about engaging on creep, because he knows that those Infestors might be tunneled underground, but this is great. Oh, yep, take it down. Lovely work. Zoun is actually playing spectacular StarCraft here. It needs to be said. I think everybody expects Serral to win a series like this. That's not because Zoun is a bad player or whatever, but because Serral has just been so dominant for such a long time and he never really has an off day. But Zoun is maneuvering this about as good as you can really expect the Protoss to. Got ourselves a Dark Shrine right now on the back of this too. Base attempted for like the 7th time or so here on the right side yet again. Upper right base has been retaken. But if Zoun can take the 3 o'clock expansion, we are effectively at a split map scenario. And in a split map scenario, usually that works out great for Protoss. This is by no means over yet. Even though Serral has the bigger bank, Zoun is pretty much maxed. His upgrades are still rolling in. He needs to be careful, though. Like, if we see a round of neural parasites, this is not good. Those Archons are gonna explode if you're not careful. If we see a round of neural parasites, though, on these important Protoss units, these battles can be absolutely disastrous. Fungal? Ooh. The dance between the Infestors and the High Templar. So the feedback ability of the High Templar deals half a point of damage, depending on the amount of energy that the unit they're feedbacking has. So an Infestor with 90 HP can be one-shot if it's full energy. Oh, Neural Parasites, couple of Corruptors swoop in. Luckily right there for Zoun, he did get the recall down reasonably quickly, but now his army is very disjointed. Corruptors immediately swoop in, and this could be big right here for Serral. There are some storms going down, but he knows that those units are not part of the main clump. And without the Archons nearby, suddenly the rest of the Yeah, the Tempest just end up going down. Still, though, I feel like this is an overextension. Lovely feedbacks. Really good kills as well on some of those broods. Oh, crazy fight. Massive Stalker warp in right now for Zoun, who's transitioning into carriers right now, too. What's nice about the Stalker follow-up is that he can actually capitalize on this. It's going to take a while for Serral to, yeah, get all of his units together once again. He needs a lot of those Brute Lords to be morphed in. He only has like 5 of them remaining. If Zoun can actually press the issue, this could be a problem for the Zerg, but Zoun doesn't really want to engage too deep on creep, and Nexus on the right does end up going down yet again. Okay. A scary engagement for the both. Ultimately, they decide to back off. You know what? Fully upgraded Stalkers. Not so bad against Ultralisks. But I guess you can't see him. Yeah. Sorry, lads. Gonna need an observer. Protosses actually don't get a ton of observers in this matchup anymore. Okay. It used to be very common for Protoss to get a ton of observers in this matchup. I was watching Grubby play a little bit of StarCraft 2 the other day after he basically hadn't played it for a very long time. And I was reminded about how back in the day, Protoss players would just get observers left, right, and center. Grubby was getting so many of them. Not really the case anymore in this matchup these days. It's just too much dedicated supply, and the robo units are just very useful for other things. Anyways, the base in the upper right goes down, but maybe the same can be said as well for the base in the bottom left. Fungal growth yet again. With fungal growth, you cannot back up with the Stalkers. Blink is not allowed. He decides to blink forward, goes after one of the Infestors. The rest of them burrow, though, and that is a lot of losses there on the side of the Protoss, but still, the majority of the Protoss army is moving in on the left flank instead. That's going to be a hatchery down in about a second or two. What about the Nexus here on the right? I don't think there's enough, Zerg close by to really shut it down. Zoun is honestly managing all of this really, really well. Okay, look, zooming out, right? We are now at a spot where Protoss has half of the bases on the map, and Zerg no longer does the same. Serral's bank is bigger, and that's the real issue here for Protoss. He can keep this going for a long time. But economically speaking, positionally, Zoun is not in a bad spot. Problem is, though, does he have enough units to actually contest this Zerg player? Because Serral just still seems to be everywhere. Base in the far bottom left in a world of trouble. I think that may be the end of it. These Zerglings hit so freaking hard. Rest of the Stalker army here is going to have to get recalled out. A single Immortal in the mix, too. Where's all the Skytals? Okay, here it is. I think this is going to come down to one massive clash between these two armies. Zoun needs to dominate that fight, because Serral is going to instantly remax with a ton of Corruptors. Maybe some Ultralisks. Maybe some Brute Lords as well, if he still has some leftover Corruptors. But it's going to be a fight that Zoun needs to win. Now, his army is huge. 152 army supply. Serral's army is massive as well, but a little bit more complicated, I suppose, to micro. It really all comes down to the dance between the Infestors and then all of the High Templar. If the High Templar can feed back the Infestors, that would be massive. Likewise, though, if the Infestors can neural parasite the carriers, or, God forbid, even the High Templar themselves, this could become absolutely disastrous for Protoss. Serral retaking the base over here, retaking the upper right as well. It's not going to happen, though. Protoss now heading on over in that direction. Big Zergling run by in the meantime, but Zoun not actually leaving all of his units with his main army. Obviously, though, he can recall those Stalkers and Zealots as well towards the mothership. I wonder if that's what he needs to do, man. That's a lot of dedicated supply for defense. Oracle is gonna fall, it seems. Yep. It took a couple of fungals, but ultimately it ends up falling. Serral losing so many hatcheries now. It's a weird problem, right? Because for the Zerg, you have 10,000 minerals, you have 5,000 gas. With all of the hatcheries gone, you do run into the problem that you need the third resource more so than the other two. We're gonna have to see larva. I wouldn't mind seeing a few proxy hatcheries going down, just so Serral can actually remax. 19 larvae is really not that much. What about this, though? That's one Brute Lord going down, but neural parasites as well. We see fungal growths left, right, and center, and a ton of feedbacks on pretty much all of the infestors. Here's the Corruptors right now swooping in. They're trying to make sure that they are spread out so the Archons don't deal too much splash damage, but the neural parasites are kind of nuts. Serral's trying to remax desperately. Not enough larvae to really get the job done. Now the Zerglings join in as well. Those Stalkers that were part of the base defense decide to join in the middle of the battle. Mothership does end up falling down, and there's enough Brute Lords still in the skies to shut down the remainder of the Protoss army. My god, what a spectacular game. Absolute cinema here from both of these players. Really solid work in this particular PvZ. But this is now looking like a solid Serral victory. I do not know what Zoun can really do against this anymore. The only problem here for Serral again is the larva, but it looks like with a few more injects going down, he's now actually making queens. I think he only just now realizes the larva problem. With those queens now joining in the fray, he's going to be able to sort that issue out long term. Nexus in the bottom left ends up falling yet again. Yeah, at this point, Serral is maxed with plenty of resources to boot. Zoun still has a decent number of Stalkers, but obviously Stalkers alone are not going to cut it. He decides to recall when he sees the Lynx coming in, but that now means that he is stuck behind all of the Infestors and then also the Brutes. Fungal growth would not be a bad idea, but I think he's busy looking at other things. Zoun, though, trying to create as much chaos out on the map as he possibly can. Looks like he will be able to snipe the left side base. This is obviously a good trade, though, here for Serral yet again, because he's the one with a bank. Ultra's now actually a phenomenal choice again, too, right? When you only really have these gateway units, Stalkers are not really going to have a good time against, well, Ultra Ling. Here go the Brute Lords. Straight towards the far bottom right. They're headed on over towards the main base, the soft underbelly of the Protoss. And I think at this point we are watching Zoun process the loss, because there is about 0% chance that he is going to be able to get a win out of this situation at this point in time. Serral's feeling confident enough to counterattack right here with the Brutes. He's got plenty of units remaining to be fighting. Ooh, you know what, Serral, it's important not to fall asleep. Okay, that was like a 9 Infestor donation. I don't think it really matters that much. Oh, Army Hotkey here. He cancels it. Serral's panicking. He cancels the Caustic Spray. He's sending the units back home. Oy, oy, oy. I mean, I still do not see how Zoun could possibly ever win this. Just because Serral can remix so many times over and over and over again. But these last couple minutes, I mean, the ones after the big fight have been very good for Zoun yet again. Brenda in the main base dies. It looks like the Stalkers, fully upgraded, they're going to start working on the Hive. Fungal growth here, though, and now an Ultra is going to join in. Okay. Yeah, margin for error is still absolutely minuscule, it seems, for this type of Zerg army. But GG gets called. It's Serral who wins game number 1. We find ourselves on a Winter Madness. I'm ready for another banger. But I don't know if the players are. You know, you could kind of feel Serral starting to slip a little bit after the main engagement. Zoun is certainly not going to do the same build again, because now he decides to open up with a Twilight Council first. Okay. So let's talk about the options. The most common one would be a Glaive Adept opener. So rushing up to Glaive Adept, very strong, especially if Zerg decides to skip out on the Roach Warren. Alternative choices, very quick blink, very quick charge. You can go into a Templar Archives and then do a little bit of Archon dropping, right? You can do some juggling with that and a Prism. You could go into a Dark Shrine as well. So the Twilight Council alone, it just, okay, gives you loads of choices. With this one though, straight blink being by far the most uncommon one. Robo facility on the back of this. I'm not even entirely sure what to make of this. So, if Zerg opens up with, I mean, let's say a +1 melee build, right? Which is pretty common right now. We see this all the time, especially from Korean Zergs. You lose as Protoss to this sort of thing, I'm fairly sure. There's about 0% chance you're going to be able to hold. Now, obviously, +1 melee for Zerg wouldn't start up until right about right now, so maybe the timing is a bit of a mismatch, but Yeah, we're going for, I guess, a 2-gate Stalker all-in. How many gates do we make? So he is now making 4. He's already got 2. So this is a 2-base 6-gate all-in? What year is it? I have seen this a few times lately. I'm not entirely sure who popularized this. I think I've seen Trigger do it a bunch, the Canadian Protoss player, but it is a curious build. The strength of it, I suppose, is that Zergs are just not prepared for it at all. Like, this feels pretty far off the beaten path. And this may just be the latest flavor in 2-base all-ins for Protoss. I kind of love it, though. Let's see. This is a build that I quite literally haven't seen since, I mean, other than, like, over the last month or two. I haven't really seen this since, like, 2011. Back then, though, the entire game was very different. For example, the warp gate research was incredibly fast. And things just, yeah, didn't really work out very well. But let's see. Serral's making Pure Ling Roach. If Serral can buy enough time, the 7-worker advantage, the 6-worker advantage that he's got is going to be phenomenal. But Zoun is already knocking at the 3rd base. This is a 2-gate or a 2-base all-in. Remember when they were last popular? It must have been with, like, Immortal Sentry. Lovely trapping so far, though, with the Blink Stalkers. The drones are dying real quick. Serral trying to make a few Ravagers, but Stalkers are super powerful already. Nice transfusion there by the Finnish Zerg player, but this is not looking all too hot at all for Serral. Wait a second. He needs to get 1 big surround. Okay, Zergling's around. And then I guess he wants to get the Corrosive Biles in the meantime. But the Stalker Micro, the Prism pickup control is excellent. He has lost 1 Stalker. He has lost 1 Stalker so far. Wait a second. This may be the perfect Protoss game. Oh, oh. Micro is really good. Is that the 2nd Stalker dying? 3rd Stalker dying? Yeah. So 3 Stalkers right now for all of this. And at this point, the momentum becomes a huge problem here for the Zerg. He's trying to desperately reinforce this as quickly as he can. Some of the Stalkers are low HP, I suppose, but the shields will regenerate. More and more Warpins. Obviously, that does mean that the Prism needs to back up for a little bit, but GG gets called. Zoun just destroyed Serral in game number 2. Okay, and that means that this series comes down to the map White Rabbit. Now, I want to talk about that Stalker build a little bit more, because that was a very normal opener for Serral. Right? Like, that was a triple hatch opener. As far as I noticed, he didn't really cut any corners. He did make a whole lot of units as well, so that wasn't even really Zerg being super greedy. Zoun went for effectively a scoutless 6-gate push, and he just destroyed him. Now, how do you figure that sort of thing out as the Zerg? That's the real question, right? Because I'm sure that Serral has a way of countering the strat, but how do you figure out that that is the push that your opponent is going for? Like I said, even when you see the Twilight Council, there's still like 6 reasonable choices for Protoss to go for. Maybe the Glyph, the depth timing is the most popular, but with really good micro. You can tell here that the Stalkers are good as well. It is not so straightforward. I guess one big tell, though, for Serral is the fact that he did not see a Skytles unit. So usually you kind of expect an Oracle to be on the Zerg side of the map at, like, say, minute 4. Or at least Protoss to, like, attempt to take a 3rd base by, like, 3:45 or so. So those might be little tells there for Serral that he needs to be paying attention to. But yeah, that is a very cool build that I fully expect to see more down the line. One thing to keep in mind is that all of these games, so this is from a $10,000 tournament, all of these games will be checked out as well by the other pro gamers. Pro gamers, generally speaking, watch a ton of StarCraft as well. Maybe not so much, you know, for commentary. Maybe not so much for entertainment purposes, but mostly for studying, right? And I think that a game that we just saw from Zoun is one that we will see studied quite a bit by other Protoss players out there. If you can shut down the world's very best Zerg player playing the most normal build out of them all, I guess that's a pretty good sign that you may have something up your sleeve, right? Something that might just work consistently. Okay. It's going to be a Void Ray first this time around here for Zoun. So not going for the same build multiple times. By the way, as far as like Zerg players countering that build goes, I think there's a few options. You might actually be able to skip out the Roach Warren with this particular style, although obviously you'd be in trouble against any sort of glaive to death push. But I think the real key for Zerg is to not drone so hard. So Serral decided to drone up to, I think when Zoun attacked, there were like 48 workers. I think if Serral would sit at like maybe 42, it's not that big of a difference, but if you would have like 5 more roaches, or maybe like, maybe 12 or so more Zerglings by the time that the Stalkers move in, I think that's probably a significantly better spot. So the amount of changes that he would have to make are relatively small, but you can't really make those changes if you don't know. And that's the tricky thing. All right, Void Ray though, followed up right now by an Oracle. Twilight Council on the back of this again here for Zoun. Infestation Pit, or... Did I just call... Nice. Nice, very, very nice. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Bella for sleep deprivation. I appreciate that, yeah. I meant the Forge. Protoss going for a 4.5 minute Infestation Pit would be very impressive. Roach Warren coming up. Serral, by the way, droning straight past the number that I just discussed. But I think it's because he already saw that there was a Void Ray out. You know, it'd be kind of cool if that Stalker build would actually become very popular for Protoss players to purposely save up like 3 Oracles and then move across the map. Basically, make it look as if it's a Twilight Council-based build order, but then it's actually Stargate and you just end up zapping everything to death. Zerg is going to stop droning at like 42. You end up with a significantly better eco. That's the type of meta game that you can end up in if the Stalker build indeed ends up being really solid. Anyhow, a Robo Facility right now on the back of this as well for Zoun, who's once more preparing to play a little bit of a macro game. 4th hatchery coming up already. A little bit of a different timing actually on the 4th hatchery compared to the 10,000 feet map. 2nd Robo though, together with a Robo Bay. Blink together with the +1. +1, of course, researching inside of the Infestation Pit. By the way, I've been editing player stats into the YouTube videos. I haven't really talked about it very much, but I've been trying to edit in some additional stats. The head-to-head score between the players, I think, is very cool. Curious to hear your thoughts on it. Let me know. It does take a little bit of time for me to edit it in, but I think it's nice to have a little bit more information, right? Zerglings here trying to get some damage in. Nah, they get a Stalker or 2. There's the Forge. The Forge for the Zerg. +1 ground, though, is going to be done here in just a moment. 5th hatchery already coming up, too. Double Evolution Chamber. Wait. Serral decides to cancel the Infestation Pit and start up a 2nd Evo Chamber instead. What is this? Is this a Zerg timing attack? Stalkers once more get surrounded, but with the Oracle up in the air, it'll be difficult to achieve much. I really wonder what this is for. This is looking like a weird timing attack for Zerg. Is it 1-1 upgrades? Like +1 missile, +1 melee? Are we gonna go pure Hydra with Carapace? Like what is... Yeah, okay, no, we're going full attack. So this is Glass Cannon Zerg. This is 0 survivability and all the damage output. Normally, Zergs would do this sort of thing like a year or 2 ago with Hydraling Bane, but Serral does not have a Baneling Nest. So I think this is going to be pure Hydra Ling instead. Pure Hydra Ling, though, against a Colossus-based opener. I do not think that this is a good spot for Serral at all. If Zoun can drag the fight on, just for a few seconds, really, if those Colossi can get a bunch of hits in, they're just going to be destroying everything. Oh, nice cancel in the end. But they're just going to be destroying everything, Zerg. Now the Infestation Pit starts up yet again. Overlord drops coming up. Okay. So what Zoun has seen so far is very reminiscent to the first game. But, I love this. He has an observer in the main base. He knows that there is no hive. And when Serral, I mean, he sees it now, but when Serral, look at him. Oh, he's so sharp. I love that. Zoun is honestly playing phenomenal StarCraft. I know I've said this a bunch of times already, but that hive started and he instantly noticed. That's so sick. Anyways, the fact that he now has seen the timing of the hive, he must be anticipating some sort of mid-game push here by Serral. Keep in mind, in the first game, it was like a 6.5 minute hive. Now it is several minutes later. Where has Zerg been spending their money? Well, he needs to be careful, though. If Hydra Link can come in from every side... Oh, that's, I think, what we're trying to get. Yes, Serral's trying to go for the surround against the Colossi and that many Stalkers. Is there enough firepower right here for the Zerg player? This is a crazy engagement by the finisher, but I think it may just be narrowly working out. The Prism falls with a Colossus inside of it. The Queens join in as well, and Serral ends up shutting down one of the unit compositions that really is supposed to counter Hydra Link. The only reason that worked there for Serral is because of the positioning. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit afraid that there's a half dozen Diamond League Zerg players looking at this and they're like, oh, Hydra Link against Stalker. Yeah, Hydra Link against Stalker Colossus. It's a phenomenal comp. This is... You need the perfect positioning for that to work out. I think even Zoun was a little bit surprised. He could have recalled. He could have recalled and gotten out of there. But he figured, yo, this is pure Hydra Link. Why would I not fight? Okay, Colossus indeed coming up yet again. A massive dip, though, in the army size. Infestation Pit right now coming up, or Lurker Den Rotter right now coming up together with that hive being done. Vipers added into the mix. And now the Overlord drops are going to hit. Zoun is in a world of trouble here. He's going to be able to keep roasting. Not a lot of anti-air in this army. What about the Hydra Link push up north? Oi, 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 oi. Ah, beautiful game here. Really lovely strategy by Serral. I was assuming it wasn't gonna work. Generally, when you see mass Colossus production into Hydra Link, it's absolutely atrocious for the Hydra Link player. But positioning is everything, right? Reducing the splash damage that those Colossi can potentially deal is huge. And also, I guess that one Colossus being caught inside of the Prism. Zoun was trying to reposition it, but Serral ended up getting both the Prism and the Colossus in one hit. That is massive. He wants to continue fighting, though, but soon there's going to be Lurkers out, and now the Link drops are still inside of the main base. Adrenal Glands, by the way, is very soon done as well, together with the +2 melee. This positioning here on the Hydras is awesome as well here, because Zealots alone are not going to cut it. What about the fight in the meantime on the other side of the map? I mean, Blinding Cloud to slow things down. The Lurkers, though, I think are going to be enough. I mean, it's not that many Lurkers, I will say. But I think the best case scenario here for Zoun is getting one base. And the problem is, he is losing his own main. The Nexus is already gone. Here come the Zerg reinforcements. Lurkers trying to see if they can potentially catch up. Seismic Spines, the ranged upgrade for those Lurkers is nearly done. Main base of the Protoss, though, has disappeared. And now the Robo Bay is gone. That means no more Colossus production. These Colossi, though, are still getting about as much value as they ever could. But I don't think that Zoun is going to be able to cut across. Yeah, there's no way he's going to be able to get across into the natural expansion of the Zerg. And there it is. GG gets cold. It is Serral who gets the job done in some spectacular games of StarCraft. I think this last game, though, really was on a very tight edge. There was... I think if Zoun would have chilled a little bit longer, if he would have waited for like 2 more Colossi, if he wouldn't have gotten surrounded by so many different Zerg units all at the same time, I think the game would have been very different there in the end. But what a banger of a series. I kind of went into this expecting a clean sweep for Serral, and it is a Serral win in the end, but I am massively impressed by the way that Zoun performed. GG.